All right, Year 12s. Textbooks closed. I want everyone to close your textbooks and I want you to make sure that you have a notebook open in front of you and a pen in hand, ready to go. I'll give you another 10 seconds to do that. All right. Now I want you to look at the table that we have on screen here, and I want you to arrange only the courts that you know exist in the Victorian court hierarchy into a hierarchy. I'd like you to draw a hierarchy on the notepad that you have in front of you. Ready? Go. All right, we need to now take a look at our hierarchies and see how we did. Now, obviously, I can't see them. I'm recording this, so don't try and show it to the screen. That's a little bit weird. What instead we're going to do is we're going to work through a hierarchy, and I'll get you to judge how many you got correct and how accurate you assembled the hierarchy of Victorian courts. So first up, we have the Magistrates' Court, the Coroner's Court, and the Children's Court. These are all in line together. Did you get all three of these? I'm assuming most people would have got the Magistrates' Court of Victoria. However, I don't know if everyone would have included both the Coroners and the Children's on this tier. If you listed the Family Court on this row, be aware that this is a federal court and has merged with the Federal Circuit Court of Australia recently, so it's not technically part of the Victorian hierarchy of courts. Now, the reason the Children's Court and the Coroner's Court are on the same level as the Magistrates but not connected is because they operate similar to the Magistrates' Court. The Children's Court, for example, only hears matters relating to children and doesn't hear matters where death has occurred. And the Coroner's Court is something altogether different. It kind of acts as like an independent investigator, and they investigate the causes of deaths and fires. They'll often work with police in that matter. The court is not adversarial, meaning there are no two sides. And many cases that pass through the Coroner's Court are actually resolved in a way called in chambers, which means they don't proceed to a hearing in the courtroom. Now, the Coroner's Court can also assist police in determining a cause of death so that charges can be brought. Okay, so now that I've explained those two, let's see how we went with the rest of the hierarchy. First of all, I'll go on to jurisdiction. Sorry, I forgot I put this in. So jurisdiction is also a really important reason for the court hierarchy. Now, original jurisdiction indicates the power of a court to hear a case for the first time, and appellate jurisdiction is the power to hear it on appeal. We'll come back to appeals in a moment. So now that I've explained that bottom row there, let's see how we went with the rest. Did you get County Court up next? I'm assuming most of you who took Year 10 legal studies would probably remember the County Court was the one above that. Then we had the Supreme Court Trial Division. Did you include the Court of Appeal? Technically, it didn't say Supreme Court of Victoria Court of Appeal, but it is the Court of Appeal. Did you include that? What about the High Court? Now, this one's a bit different. The High Court of Australia is technically a federal court. So did you put it at the top? The reasoning that it sits at the top of the Victorian court hierarchy is that challenges to constitutional validity of a law are heard in the High Court. That's to mean if someone is arguing that a law that they have been charged under is not valid under the Australian Constitution, then that case would be heard, that would require that they appeal to the High Court. Now, the High Court can hear cases on anything under Australian law. They can hear it on taxation, criminal law, corporate law. They do it all. They do actually hear appeals from the Supreme Court as well. However, appeals to the High Court work a little bit differently. There's no automatic right to have an appeal heard by the High Court, and a party that wishes to appeal must persuade the High Court in a preliminary hearing that there are special reasons to cause the appeal to be heard. Decisions of the High Court on appeals are final, and the decision made is binding to all other courts. Mostly, the High Court hears appeals against other courts. So one of the primary reasons we have a court hierarchy in Victoria is the ability of courts to specialise and have expertise in an area of the law, meaning that cases are handled appropriately and consistently. The County Court, for example, in the middle, specialises in indictable offences. However, it does not hear the most serious indictable offences, things like murder or treason. Those are handled by the Supreme Court Trial Division. This means the County Court has or develops expertise in these particular offences. Now, I'll also remind you of the explanations that I gave earlier of the Children's Court and the Coroner's Court. The second major reason for a court hierarchy is appeals. So having a court hierarchy allows for a party to appeal the outcome of a case. So they can do so on the basis of a question of law, the conviction, so whether they're guilty or not guilty, or the severity or leniency of a sanction. There is one such example of that final appeal occurring recently on an appeal on the basis of leniency. The Department of Public Prosecutions, I believe is in South Australia, it may be Victoria, I'm unsure, but the Department of Public Prosecutions appealed the leniency of a case where a young father was on a quad bike with his 2 to 3 year old son, and the quad bike turned over and they crashed. They were doing something not particularly safe. His son wasn't restrained. He was just holding his son on his lap while they were driving on this thing. Had an accident. The quad bike overturned, and unfortunately the bike crushed his son, and his son was killed. Now, this particular case, he originally was not sentenced to any jail time. However, the Department of Public Prosecutions appealed on the basis of leniency of a sanction, and they were able to win the appeal, and he will be serving 6 months in prison now. There are also some other reasons that we have a court hierarchy that are not just the ability to appeal and for specialisation. And these are kind of less talked about reasons, but they are very important. So the first one will be administrative convenience. So the court hierarchy allows cases to be distributed across according to their nature and complexity. So the more serious and complex cases are heard in the higher courts, and these cases take longer to hear and require judges who are expert in complicated points of law. So like we were talking about before, the ability to specialise. Cases involving minor offences such as driving charges, such as driving charges, they can be heard quickly and less expensively in the lower courts, such as the Magistrates Court. Now, the other reason is the doctrine of precedent. So if you're asked a question about why do we have a court hierarchy in Victoria, these are some of the other reasons that you give, as well as the right to appeal or the ability to appeal and jurisdiction, and the ability to specialise. The doctrine of precedent and administrative convenience are other reasons you can give. Now, the doctrine of precedent is a system by which decisions made in higher courts are binding on lower courts in the same hierarchy where the material facts are similar. So the ratio decidendi, or the reason for the decision in the higher court, which is part of the court's judgment, establishes a precedent to be followed in future for similar cases, meaning whatever reason a more senior court decides on the outcome of a case can be passed on to lower courts. So this system provides consistency in that similar cases are treated in a similar manner. Solicitors can inform their clients as well of the law and the likely decision if a precedent is followed. So for example, if you are accused of a crime and you seek legal representation, you will have, thanks to the doctrine of precedent and also the Crimes Act, etc., you will have an idea of what to expect in terms of sentencing, in terms of the punishment for that crime. Now, what I'd like you guys to do now is I'd like you to complete questions 1 to 4 on page 101 in your textbook. Again, if you don't have the textbook yet, I know a couple of you emailed me saying we haven't quite got it yet, we're waiting on it. Understandable. I hope you've got it now, but if you don't, I have uploaded chapter 4 to Google Classroom, and I believe the resources tab on Compass as well. You can download it. Complete questions 1 to 4 now, and that should take you 20-25 minutes. You can go back and watch this video again if it helps, or you just read the chapter. All the information's there in the chapter. I do want you to answer these in full sentences as well. Questions 1 to 4. Question 4, you can just do just single words, just magistrates court, county court, whatever it is. But questions 1 to 3 at least, full sentences. Now, after that, I want you to read DPP v. Ristevsky from 2019 and complete all of the questions for question 5, which will take you another 25 minutes. Feel free to have a 5-minute brain break between those, but whoever's taking this class now, give them about 25 minutes from the time this video ends to finish questions 1 to 4, 5-minute brain break, and then another 25 minutes to complete that, and they should be about done for the lesson. If you finish early, there is, sorry, I forgot to put that up. Write in full sentences, please, especially for question 5, full sentence answers. If you finish early, you can complete question 6 or 7 and treat it like an essay. So try to write an essay justifying your argument for question 6 or question 7. Thanks, guys. I'm looking forward to seeing you all. I'll be back on Wednesday. We don't have a class on Wednesday, but I'll be back. If I see you around, I'll say hello. Maybe show you some photos of my son, some videos. He's started squealing at me now, which is very cute, but also maybe you don't want to watch a whole bunch of videos of a squealing baby. Nonetheless, I'll see you guys on Wednesday. We have class again on Thursday. Looking forward to being back in the classroom with you all. I'll see you then.